We live in a world that's just completely obsessed with winning, right? With being number one. But Simon Sinek comes along and forces us to ask a much, much more fundamental question.
And that question is, what game are we really playing? I mean, what if leadership isn't about winning at all? What if it's about building something that actually lasts? What if the real goal is just to stay in the game long enough to make a real, lasting impact?
And look, this isn't just another business book. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. It's a new lens to see through, a whole philosophy, and honestly, a quiet rebellion against all that short-term thinking that just seems to be everywhere. So today, we're going to explore how Sinek's ideas can help us build organizations with real purpose, trust, and the kind of resilience you need to play the long game.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into the huge difference between finite and infinite games. Then we'll talk about what Sinek calls a just cause, the fuel for the journey. After that, it's all about building trusting teams and completely changing how we think about our rivals. We'll touch on leading with flexibility and then wrap it all up with a new vision for what leadership can really look like.
All right, let's get right into it. The first big question we have to tackle is, what kind of game are we actually in?
Okay, so to really get what Sinek is talking about with this infinite game idea, we got to rewind a bit. We need to look at this simple but honestly pretty profound idea from a philosopher named James Carse. He said that not all games are created equal. In fact, there are only two types of games. Just two.
And the differences between them are, well, they're stark. On one hand, you've got finite games. Think about football or chess. You know who the players are, the rules are fixed, and at the end, there's a clear winner and a loser. Simple. But then you have infinite games. Think about business, or even life itself. In these games, the players come and go. The rules are always changing, and there is absolutely no finish line. The goal isn't to win, it's to keep playing.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because this leads to a huge distinction in mindset. Sinek just nails it with this quote. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. Let that sink in for a second.
I mean, that's more than just a clever little phrase, right? It's a complete mental reset. It challenges the very foundation of how most of us think about competition. Because think about it. If business is an infinite game, what does that mean? It means our strategies can't be static. They have to be adaptive. Our cultures can't be brittle. They need to be resilient. And our leadership, well, it has to be visionary.
Okay, so if we're playing a game that never ends, with no finish line in sight, what keeps us going? What's the fuel for that kind of journey? According to Sinek, it all comes down to something he calls a just cause.
And this isn't just some fluffy mission statement that you hang on a wall and forget about. A just cause is your North Star. It's a vision of a future that is so incredibly compelling, so inspiring, that people are willing to make real sacrifices to help bring it to life. A perfect example? The civil rights movement. That was a just cause, a vision of a better, more just future that inspired people to endure unbelievable hardship.
And a true just cause has some very specific things that define it. First, it's always for something positive and inclusive, not just against something. Second, it's got to be resilient, strong enough to get through any storm. It's also service-oriented, meaning it's focused on others, not just on profits. And here's the kicker. It's so big, so idealistic, that you might never actually achieve it. And that's kind of the point. It's what keeps everyone pushing forward.
So it really forces every leader to ask themselves a tough question. What hill are you willing to die on? Seriously. Because without that clarity, an organization is just a series of transactions. But with a just cause, it becomes something truly transformational.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. A just cause has to be authentic. It can't just be a clever marketing slogan. It has to be lived, not laminated. It has to be baked right into the company culture, not just part of some temporary ad campaign. And maybe most importantly, you have to be willing to defend it, even and especially when it's costly or unpopular.
All right, so leaders with this infinite mindset, they know they can't achieve their just cause alone. No way. They need a team. But not just any team, they need what Sinek calls a trusting team. This is a space where people feel so safe, so secure, that they can be vulnerable. They can admit they made a mistake or ask for help without any fear of being humiliated. Sinek makes it super clear that this kind of psychological safety isn't some nice-to-have perk. It's absolutely essential for survival.
He puts it this way, when we feel safe among our own, we will naturally combine our strengths and share our weaknesses. And it's right there in that feeling of safety that you get real collaboration. That's where innovation is born.
This part of the book really gets to the core of what it means to be human at work. So how do you actually build these trusting teams? Well, it boils down to a few key things. Consistent empathy, like truly caring about your people. Transparent communication, being honest even when it's tough. And it means leaders have to go first. They have to model the humility and vulnerability they expect from everyone else. In the infinite game, trust isn't just a buzzword. It's the literal fuel that keeps the whole engine running.
Now here's a really radical idea. In a finite winner-take-all game, your goal is to crush your rivals, right? But in an infinite game, your rivals are actually your greatest teachers. Sinek introduces this concept of a worthy rival, another player in the game who is just so good, they force you to get better. They expose your blind spots and push you to improve. So instead of trying to beat them, you should actually be grateful for them.
Okay, but wait, staying true to your just cause doesn't mean you stay stagnant. Actually, it often demands massive change. Sinek has a great term for this: existential flexibility. It's the courage to make a huge strategic pivot, not because you're chasing some new trend, but because your just cause demands it. A classic example is Apple. Their cause has always been about empowering individuals with technology. That's why they were able to risk everything and move from computers to music players to phones. The products changed dramatically, but the cause, that stayed exactly the same.
That right there is existential flexibility in action. And it takes incredible courage to pull off. You have to have the guts to challenge the way things have always been done. You need absolute clarity on your purpose so you know which changes are the right ones to make. And you have to be deeply committed to that long-term vision, even when the short term looks pretty scary. Ultimately, all of this, playing the infinite game, it really boils down to one thing: courage. And it is not easy. You're constantly going to face pressure to hit quarterly targets, to cut corners, to put profits before people. But as Sinek so powerfully puts it, the courage to lead means the courage to say no to the finite game.
And yeah, leading this way can feel really lonely sometimes. You're going against the grain. But Sinek reminds us that it's the only way to make a truly lasting impact. The courageous leaders, they're the ones who speak truth to power, even when it's unpopular. They're the ones who protect their people and create that circle of safety. And above all else, they stay loyal to their cause no matter what. So, as we get near the end, Sinek leaves us with this beautiful vision for a totally new kind of leadership. It's a leadership style that gives back more than it takes. It's not about being the best, it's about being better. Better for our people, better for our customers, for our communities, and for the generations that are still to come.
I mean, just take a second and imagine it. Organizations that measure their success in decades, not in quarters. Companies that treat their people like true partners, not like resources to be exploited. A world where leaders lead with soul, not just with spreadsheets. Look, at the end of the day, the infinite game isn't a step-by-step manual. It's a fundamental shift in how we see everything. It's a challenge, really. A challenge to move from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance, from just competing to actually contributing. For storytellers, it gives us a new narrative to tell. For strategists, it's a new compass. And for anyone in a position to lead, it's a call to a whole new kind of courage.
So in a world that is just obsessed with finite metrics, this book dares us to lead with infinite heart.